Accents are weird, and so are dialects. And where do they even come from? I was curious about this, so I decided to research it. Now, there's no definite answer to just how many English accents there are in the world, but I did find a website that said there's roughly 160 different ones. And at first, I also wanted to include the United Kingdom and British accents, but I didn't realize just how many there were. The United Kingdom actually has more accents than America does. And you know how we mock each other's accents because it's fun and funny to do? I mean, I've had so many people mock my southern accent that I can't count it. But did you know that British people mock each other's accents as well? I don't think people realize how many varieties there are, so I wanted to include this clip.
Say grass.
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 You're stupid. Okay, no.
Like.
We have
That's
so
what
much
you
stuff.
sound like. That's what you sound like. Grass. Grass.
And I wanted to mention this because this is the reason why I'm just focusing on American English accents. There are just too many accents to cover in one short video. Now, with the American accents, how many are there? I tried to look this up, and one website said that there's roughly 30, and another one said that there was about 20. There's no definite answer. I mean, what exactly is an accent and a dialect anyway? So, an accent is just referring to a way that somebody talks and how the words sound. While dialect, on the other hand, is grammar, vocabulary, syntax, expressions, pronunciation, a bunch of different rules that make it unique to the same language. Although I don't have time to talk about all of them, I do want to cover a few major accents and dialects, and the first one being Southern. This is where we emphasize our vowels, and our tongue stays farther back instead of coming forward when we say words. They have price smoothings, and in my words, price smoothings are words that sound the same even though they have completely different meanings. An example would be ride and right. We say ride and right. They sound the same but mean different things, and us from the South know the difference. Same with pen and pen. We say pen and pen. Saying pen is really hard for me. And I could also break this up into like a Texas Southern accent, and then you have Eastern Southern, and there's a bunch of different ones, but I'm just talking about the South in general. People who think about Southern accent, they usually think of us saying, they shot and killed the sheriff and I'm going deer hunting and yeehaw. I mean, sometimes we do talk like that, but not all the time. That's not always the case. Visitors to like larger cities might be confused when they hear, thank you to everyone who worked so hard to beautifully capture the deep profundity of deep Southern culture. That's the first dialect example I saw. People stereotype us in saying that we're not smart. We have bad grammar, bad dialect, bad vocabulary. But that's not always the case. Honestly, I believe that the South is just as smart as any other state. Just don't look at our education systems. Now, how did we develop this accent? It really started with the white people who settled in the western part, like the Great Plains of Texas and the South. They mostly came from Tennessee and the Appalachians. But before that, the people of English and the British Isles merged and migrated in the 17th century. And I could keep talking about the South because it's what I am, it's my home. But what you really need to know is that we got our accent from people migrating in the 17th century from English speakers in the British Isles. They came together, they came to Tennessee, and then the Tennessee dropped down and created the South. Next is Minnesota, and they are also stereotyped. We can see this through the monophthongal A and O. I hope I said that right. And this is the face and goat vowels, if you know what this means. And the Dakotas are also like this. It all depends on timing, rhythm, and pitch. Whereas stressed syllables are lower rather than higher, and the key to this is to not moving your jaw as much. But there's a bunch of theories to where it came from. The main one that I saw was that it kind of started in boarding school, when they were migrating African Americans into white schools. An example of dialect would be ope, like when they say ope, I'm sorry, or like fur instead of saying for.
You can still hear some pretty pronounced accents with some really monophthongal A and O vowels. Now, but even in much less pronounced accents from this region, there will still be a bit of that.
Another one is New York. And no, you may think that there's a specific Brooklyn or Bronx accent, but there's not. It doesn't vary by borough, and it's non-rhotic. You make this accent by putting the tip of your tongue on your teeth for the T, D, and N sounds. And we have this because it layers ethnic speech with the influence from immigration. There's a variety of ethnicities and people from different backgrounds. that they in a way fuse their accents together to create this one New York accent. It just kind of stuck. And a stereotyped accent or dialect would be, hey, I'm walking here, or forget about it. Because you don't really hear this in other states. Like, I've never heard someone say that in Alabama. And it's a dialect because, hey, forget about it. That doesn't mean actually forget about it. It means, of course, or don't worry about it.
And a New York City accent, tongue tip on the teeth, Times Square, New York City, and this kind of New York accent, 22nd Street, Times Square, Dumbo, taxis, traffic, and so on.
Last but not least is California, but more specifically Southern California. They have an open oral posture, the goose and goat are fronted, vowel sounds may be split into two, and the lower jaw is lowering vowel sounds. An example would be miss sounding like the word mess. And then you have like the stereotype surfer dude accent. But the big difference between California English and other English are the vowel shifts. These accents came from the migration to California. So once again, migration is the reason we have this accent. The Central California have more of a southern sounding speech than those on the coast because farmers moved to California during the Great Depression. And the dialect you see here is not too crazy. It's like typical teenage slang, but the whole state uses it. So amped means pumped up, excited, dope means cool, and you got bro, you know.
So just like in some contemporary English accents, a more open oral posture, a lower jaw is lowering some vowel sounds.
Those in the western states have more of a merged accent than those in the east who have a more distinct accent and dialect. But from our research, everybody has their own unique accent and dialect. So in conclusion, us in the south have a southern accent because of settlement patterns. Minnesotans? What are they called? The people from Minnesota have their own accent because of Native Americans migrating into white schools and boarding schools. New Yorkers' accents are a fusion from immigration, and California's accents come from farmers who moved there during the Great Depression. So those are the origins of some of the most stereotyped accents and dialects.